Good evening, everybody. It's evening where I'm recording from, so I hope and I'm expecting it's evening wherever you're listening to this to. Good morning if you're listening to this in the morning, afternoon if you're listening to this in the afternoon. But it's evening, so I'm just gonna stick with good evening. My name's Alex. Alex Ngeze is my name. And welcome to My Opinion with Alex Ngeze. This is actually a place where I share my thoughts, my opinions on everything from life, business, social matters. There's going to be a lot of social commentary, and it's pretty much everything in between. Um, the first time I wanted to record a podcast, I think I was in like high school or secondary school. I'm not so sure, and I've always just been procrastinating it. I hope I got that word right. I was just been saying, oh, until I get this, until I get this, until I get this. Um, Till yesterday when I was just like, you know what? Tomorrow I'm gonna record a podcast and upload it. I got a mic, I got a phone, I got Canva, and I was just like, let's go. Let me just record this. So welcome everybody to my inaugural podcast. You can say and tell your friends that I was there from the very beginning because this is the very beginning. This is my first solo podcast. I know the sound might be whack. I know the production might be whack, but we're here and we're doing this. I am by myself. No, no team, no nothing. We're just like we're raw dogging it. So let's just a brief personal background. Like, who am I? My name's Alex Ngeze. Ngeze. That's the African pronunciation. For my English folk, it's Ningizi, Alex Ningizi. And yeah, I'm just taking life day by day. Like I really don't know what I can say. I work in human consultancy. I'm a human consultancy. I'm a youth facilitator for a company, and yeah, we're in Africa. We're living life. I went to university at University of Dar es Salaam. I'm I'm very proud of my alma mater. A lot of people aren't proud of their alma maters. That's a thing which is like budding these days. I think we should just learn to be more proud of the things that we have been in our lives, the schools we go to, the nations we're from, and all that stuff. Like, am I saying these things are perfect? No. But I think we should also learn to be proud of them for their goodness, because I remember you're a high school kid and you really wanted to go to that university. And when you got to the university, like even though it wasn't maybe how you planned it to be, maybe things didn't go how you expected it for those things to go, but still after that you still stuck with it and you finished and graduated. So yeah, I'm a graduate of University of Dar es Salaam and I'm proud. I'm a proud graduate. I'm proud for the education which I got there. I'm proud for like everything I learned. Um I'm proud for the friends I made, the food. I love the food. So like yeah, I'm really proud graduate of University of Dar es Salaam, class of 2024. And yeah, that's public speaker. I've always been a speaker. I've always been a talker. So like yeah. So this is just a place where I can express my opinion on things. I always write them down and I'm a really big writer. So but right now I'm just like I just wanna be more articulate of my opinion on various things. And your opinion matters. That's why I want to share that with everybody that your opinion matters. Like the world has been cookie cutted. The world creates cookie cutter personalities where all the personalities are the same, where we expect all everything to be the same. But at the end of the day, your personality matters. So your personality creates your own opinion, and I would just want to tell you today that your opinion matters in your family, in your friendships, in your relationships. Your opinion matters. Let your voice be heard. So this is my podcast is my voice being heard. It's the people who I'm gonna have on the podcast in the future, way down the line, their voices being heard. It's gonna be about personal growth. It's gonna be about leadership. It's gonna be about my own insights, and it's gonna be about social commentary. But disclaimer, it's gonna come from most of the my takes are gonna come from a religious standpoint. I am a Christian and I'm proud of that. As I said about being proud of things, which we are, I'm proud of my faith. Am I perfect in my faith? No, I don't think anyone's perfect. But all the things will always come down to my religious standpoints. And yeah, so this podcast is for everybody. Like I think everyone should have a podcast. That's what we're gonna go in deep into why everyone should have a podcast. But this podcast is for everybody. It's for the young professional, it's for the student, it's for the young man. Like I believe I'm part of the forgotten social geographic group in the world, the young man, middle class to lower middle class to lower upper middle class who's just finished university, just finding themselves. That's a really forgotten social social economic demographic in our society. So I think this podcast is for those guys. The guys who are always high in football or soccer or whatever you want to call it. You know, some of them are in relationships, some of them aren't. Some of them are in failing relationships. God be with you. Uh, but this podcast is for those guys. It's for the people who want a voice, want their opinions to be heard. Um, so like we're gonna start with a lot of solo interviews, guys. Solo episodes. It's gonna be a lot of me talking. So yeah, that's like how we're gonna start out. But we will get into guest interviews. We're gonna get into question and answers. We're gonna be deep diving on various topics. There's gonna be times you're just gonna be like, you're gonna get on this, and I'm just gonna be talking about mining because I'm a mining freak. Like I love mining. I love the business, the economics of it, the policies, and all that. There's gonna be podcasts simply about mining. So it's gonna be really broad, and I hope it like we're gonna have different playlists as we go on. We might even have a Swahili podcast, where I bring out my Swahili. Yeah, just comment below if you want me to bring out my Swahili. I love my Swahili. My Swahili has over the last 10 years, which I've been learning Swahili. My Swahili's been perfect. It's getting good. It's getting good. So what I can say today let's just talk about why everyone should have a podcast. I believe everyone should have a podcast, guys. And these are the reasons why I believe everyone should have a podcast. First of all, it's establish a personality. It helps you go deeper into yourself. Because if you sit down and say that I'm going to record for 15 minutes this podcast, I'm going to record myself talking about a topic for 15 minutes, you're going to have to ask yourself, what can I talk about for 15 minutes? A podcast allows you to showcase your expertise, your thoughts, your personality in an authentic way. Like my podcasts are one take. Like these solo interviews, guys, are going to be one take podcasts. That's why the quality is not gonna be that great, but it's literally a one take podcast. Like I'm recording this and going straight to uploading. But the first thing, it establishes a personality, establish credibility. If you're doing a professional podcast, maybe talking about economics or academics or whatever, or healthcare, it builds credibility. Because if a person, like like how we trust the lectures and stuff like that, because they're talking about this for year in year out, they know what they're talking about. So also you can take your time to record your podcast, and it will build credibility in your field and whatever you're doing. Secondly, it expands your network. Guys, I believe in networking. I don't believe in connections. We'll talk about this on another day, but having a podcast builds your network. It gives you a reason to connect with industry leaders, entrepreneurs, influencers. You just put yourself out there. Like you do not know who will tap, who will watch, who will listen to hear your perspective on whatever you want to talk about, guys. And nobody's gonna help you if you have good feature, if you're hiding under a rock somewhere. There's the Bible verse that says that we are the light of the world. And who puts on a light and puts it on under like some a place where it cannot be seen, we put it where it should be seen. Having a podcast puts you where you can be seen in whatever you're doing. If you're a carpenter, you should have a podcast about carpentry. If you're an engineer, you should have a podcast about engineer, because at the end of the day, you never know who will listen to it, guys. You have to put yourself out there. Having a podcast expands your network. It positions you as a thought leader, Sharing your opinions and insights regularly makes people see you as an authority in the niche. You know when you're like on Twitter, I will always call it Twitter. When you're on Twitter and there's this person who's just like the real estate guy. Like they're gonna talk about Simba, Yanga, those are local soccer teams where I'm from. They're gonna talk about everything else, but they will always have their threads on real estate. Or you can talk about there's the business people. There's so position yourself as a thought leader. Having a podcast on something on a niche will position you as the thought leader of that thing. Like when people think about mining, they'll think about, oh, the guy who has a mining podcast. When they think about entertainment, oh, the person who has an entertainment podcast. When they think about anything, they will think about you as the thought leader because you have the podcast on it, you know? Over time, your perspectives can shape the conversations in the industry. When you are 100, 200, 300, or even five podcasts which change, podcasts which they touch people, you will see yourself becoming a leader. The fourth reason why everyone should have a podcast is it enhances communication skills, guys. Communication is key. You have, in this day and age, you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to articulate yourself. Speaking into a mic forces you to articulate your thoughts clearly. It forces you to change. It forces you to think. It forces you to become a storyteller. It forces you to become a public speaker, guys. So if you're working on your communication, have a podcast. Um, Also, it's really easy to start, guys. If you have why everyone should have a podcast? It's easy to start. If you have a phone with an audio app, like there's an audio recorder, you can have a podcast. Okay? Stop thinking that you need to have $1,000 setup with a microphone and a whole team to start a podcast. No, guys, you can start a podcast like because if one thing I saw somebody say that if you don't create content with your iPhone 6, you will not create content with a camera like a $3,000 camera. You have what you have: a mic, a laptop, a quiet space. That is enough to start your podcast. Okay. Distribution, marketing, use your social media. Social media marketing, we can talk about that on a whole other day. That's a whole other topic. But they were just talking about why everyone should have a podcast. And at the long time, at the end, it just opens doors to new opportunities. I believe this podcast will one day give me an opportunity, or it might not get to episode 2. I don't know. But speaking engagements, consultancy, brand collaborations, job offers, anything can come out if you have a strong podcast presence. So, guys, we just went through a couple reasons why everybody should have a podcast. I want to hear if you had a podcast, what would you call it? And what would it be about? Like I want to see that in the comments, guys. And what do you want me to talk about? If you're my friend, if you're my family, if you've known me, if you've been waiting for this, because there's people who've been waiting for me to have a podcast for years. What do you want me to talk about on this podcast? And if do you want to do you want to collaborate one day, like to be on the podcast? And like I just want to let's talk about it. Let's just like because I'm not sure how many people are gonna watch this, but like for the few people who watch this, what do you want to hear from this podcast, guys? Because it's my opinion. It's our opinion. Everyone can have an opinion, guys. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for getting to the end of this podcast. And see you next week, guys.